Shots, I hit them in this shit, now Bonte quick. What you finna do? Cause this gon' make the news, gotta make your move. Told that bitch get in cause she looking confused. I broke the rule, cause this bitch a witness. Plus I just popped through, but she ain't crying. And this hoe smiling, plus this bitch look cute, so we slide out. I'm checking my mirrors, made it to the house, so I hop out. Girl, I ain't hungry, I got back to that.
Just worked out the advice of Stranger Things 5 and accepted. Theory about who's gonna die by the end of season 5. Okay, so if we look at the trailer, there's still a lot of scenes that we haven't seen in the show yet. Like we haven't seen Justin hugging Steve and he's crying, and all the kids hugging Jonathan. So a lot of people think that this is gonna be the scene where Steve's gonna sacrifice himself for everybody. But this is what everybody's getting wrong, okay? So if we look at this season, Jonathan wants to propose to Nancy, and Nancy also agrees with Steve a lot more than Jonathan in this season. But if we go back to season 4, Eddie literally tells Steve that Nancy has a true love for him. Because right when he jumped into Lover's Lake, Nancy jumped in right after him without hesitation, right? So the theory is, in the scene where Dustin is hugging Steve, Nancy is actually the one that sacrificed herself for them. And then that's why all the kids are hugging Jonathan, because they're comforting him. And that's why Dustin's crying and Steve looks super shocked, because Nancy's the one that sacrificed herself. So at the end of the season, Jonathan and Steve both won't have Nancy, and that's just a theory.
Why has no one talked about this in the new season of Stranger Things? When Holly is looking through Vecna's room, she finds this telescope. Holly takes out the telescope before entering the forest. She can't see through the lid, so she takes it off. Pay close attention to the shape inside the cap. When Holly and Max meet in the woods, Max takes her to her cave hideout. Look at the rock opening that Max shows Holly. Look familiar. It's the exact same shape as Vecna's telescope. This cannot be a coincidence. Maybe this connects us to why Vecna is so terrified.
The main lead cast, all of the children, when they were still kids, like way back in 2016. What if they filmed a scene or multiple scenes in 2016 of them actually doing the series finale, like when they were actually children? And it turns out that this entire five seasons of this journey is nothing but them as children, imagining the entire situation, playing Dungeons and Dragons. Could you imagine if that is what if that's what this is all in, just their imagination?
I think that in his prison he's created.
Has anyone else had this thought? Because
so Max is actually jumping.
I could see that being the big
unknowingly because the upside down.
What do you
creates
think?
A test
the one Stranger Things theory that you need to hear is the fact that Jonathan Byers is proposing to Nancy, and the ring
Stranger
is
Things have
in
dropped
the
this.
cassette. Okay, follow me here. And the Duffer Brothers said there is a song that's going to be on the last episode of Stranger Things.
They said that there is a song that they use in the finale that has never been anywhere on TV before ever.
Than the Kate Bush song.
And only because of Kate Bush were they able to get the rights to it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a Kate Bush song. Because of Kate Bush,
it's either going to be
Jonathan, they were able to get the rights to the song.
And it's going to be a brutal death
to
that song.
So now we're going to have to go through this list and we're going to have to figure out which ones haven't been anywhere
I'm gonna cry
on TV.
The ring's gonna mean a lot.
What I am thinking about over here, you've got the weeks,
and I think that he's gonna die at the hands of his own brother.
There's 8 episodes, right?
At that point,
I'm trying to have a look at all the ones with number 8, potentially, or even the ones with like 11, 1.
Hear me out.
I think I found out why Max and Lucas are getting attacked by a Demogorgon
the original
in the
cast,
hospital in Volume 2.
main lead cast, all of the children, when they were still kids, like way back in 2016. What if they filmed a scene or multiple scenes in 2016 of them actually doing the series finale, like when they were actually children, and it turns out that this entire five seasons of this journey is nothing but them as children imagining the entire situation playing Dungeons and Dragons. Could you imagine if that is what if that's what this is all in, just their imagination? Has anyone else had this thought? Because I could see that being the big, like,
let me know what you guys think about this theory. If there's
what do
any
you think?
holes to it.
Actually, Kali's true identity is the mind flayer. That's why they both have the power to manipulate people's minds. Kali can create illusions and control what others see. While the mind flayer was able to possess will and even control what he does directly. It seems the mind flayer is more powerful than Kaylee, and that's because Kaylee has been aided by Vecna. Their power both comes from him. Think about it. All the lab kids are clones of Henry, and their powers all stem from him. And the mind flayer was also created by Henry. You could say Henry gave Kaylee another identity in the Upside Down, because Kaylee is a special kid too, just like 11. They're the only two who ever stayed in the Rainbow Group. Plus, Kaylee was the first kid to escape the lab, but her personality is worlds apart from 11's. Instead, she's more like Henry. Listen. She taught 11 to channel her power through anger, and Henry also taught 11 to find strength in her past pain. They're both people who will stop at nothing to get revenge. Kaylee, having been tortured by the lab for so long, was determined to get back at those who'd hurt her. That's why Henry chose Kaylee, and that's why she's locked up here, because her consciousness is in the Upside Down, and she is the mind flayer.
The biggest theory I heard, though, it changes the whole plot of Stranger Things. Okay. Elle is actually the real villain in Stranger Things. So it's not what you think, though. Remember Will? In the very beginning of the season, he was the one taken by Vecna. The theory's saying that it was actually 11 that made Will get caught. Wait. It was her fault that Will got taken by Vecna and brought into the Upside Down. When Will was running away from the Demogorgon or Vecna, whoever, right? There's a scene where the door lock unlocks itself. Now, the director said in an interview that Demogorgons are not able to do that. Only things with psychic abilities. Right? Now, who's the only other psychic? Elle or Vecna, right? Now, we know Vecna definitely took Will, but there was a very unspoken and unanswered reasoning why Elle already knew Will. Remember that one scene where Mike is showing a picture of his friends, and then Elle looks at the pic, and this is when she just meets Mike. She goes, Will. She knew who the fuck that was already. The reason why was because Elle was actually running from the Demogorgon or Vecna, and she unlocked the door to let the monster in to take Will instead of her. Even in season 1, there's a scene of her saying, I opened it. I'm a monster. Oh, I did see that. Look what she says right here.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
I do not think Vecna's plan in Stranger Things Season 5 is to build a wormhole to go back in time and stop his younger self from taking out his entire family. So hear me out, bro chachos, because I'm going to explain why. Now to start, the reason that I'm talking about this is because this has very much become a viral fan theory since the release of Volume 1.
This is the Stranger Things Season 5 theory that I cannot stop thinking about. What if every single person that Vecna or the Mind Flayer has killed isn't actually gone? What if their minds, or even their bodies, are still being stored in the Upside Down for a future plan? You see, in Season 3, the Mind Flayer didn't just kill people, it absorbed people. But Stranger Things never really explained what happened to their bodies. They all just disappeared into the hive mind. And then there's Vecna, and his kills are way stronger than the Mind Flayers, and they're almost like rituals. And he always says that the victims he kills are up here in his mind. And like I said, the Mind Flayer like absorbed the bodies. So what if Vecna is the brains, the Mind Flayer is the thing that can create the physical bodies, and then together they can and create a controlled army with every single victim that they both killed. Because if you think back to Nancy's vision from season 4, she didn't just see chaos in Hawkins. She saw organized apocalyptic destruction. She even said that there was like soldiers marching. In season 5, volume 1, Nancy does reference that vision again. So what if the soldiers that Nancy was talking about weren't demo-like creatures, but repurposed humans in the Upside Down? That Vecna.
This is by far the most exciting Stranger Things 5 theory, and if it becomes true, I think it will be a bigger deal on the internet than running up that hill was in 2022. Okay, so we all know in season 4, the way to defeat Vecna's curse was by listening to your favorite song. And the way we found this out is because Nancy and Robin went to go visit Victor Creel, who was the only known survivor of this attack, and he just started humming a song when asked who was the angel that saved him. He started humming a song, and Robin put everything together and said, "Oh my God, Max needs to listen to her favorite music. That's the angel that will save her." Now, for Max's case, it was her favorite song that saved her, but I do think there could be a scenario where it doesn't have to be your favorite song, it could just be any type of music. Because whenever Robin and Nancy were walking through Penhurst, they saw patients listening to all these different types of music, and the guy said, music accesses part of the brain that words simply cannot. So basically the theory is, if the entirety of Hawkins gets attacked by Vecna and his army, what if the whole entire town listened to the most popular music from 1987 and it helped them survive Vecna, or it made Vecna want to leave? Maybe music is Vecna's weakness, because music has already defeated him once before. And you might be asking yourself, well, how would they get the entire town to listen to music all at once? Well, one of the first scenes in the trailer was WSQK radio station, and all the kids were set up there. What if they get this radio station to blast the top hits from 1987 all over Hawkins, Indiana, whenever Vecna was attacking? Just imagine the scene of the final countdown playing and everyone running away from Vecna and Vecna just dying, and it's the final battle scene. I feel like this would be so legendary. And it would make sense then why they're making WSQK such a big deal, a part of the promotion, like all the merch and everything, and the radio station, it being in the trailer many times. It would just add everything up. Like I said,
that's too random.
Let me know what you guys think about this theory, and if you think it's possible that the kids make the WSQK radio station blast 1987 music all over Hawkins in season 5.
No, I don't care. There's somebody behind Vecna, there's somebody behind the Mind Flayer, there's somebody behind all of this, and I'm convinced it's Bob. So like you're watching Stranger Things for the first time, and you're like really sus about him, you think he's being weird, but then he dies, right? You feel for him. He was so good to Joyce, she finally had some sort of semblance. What if the Mind Flayer was spying, trying to find this other unnamed bad guy? That's why the Mind Flayer is obsessed with going from the upside down to the right side up, because this other bad guy has already been in the right side up, running this shit, burning everything to the ground. Before you call me crazy, take a walk with me here. Right, it's season 2 and Will's in the hospital bed, only it's not Will talking to us, it's the Mind Flayer. And when they say we need to go get the doctors and then Bob shows up, the Mind Flayer reacts to Bob in a completely different way than everyone else. Even when the doctors are actually in the room, he is not behaving that way. Never once was he afraid of the doctors. He was afraid of the fire. He didn't want to be burned. Something about Bob working at a Radio Shack and knowing everything about this when all of it has to do with electricity, and we still don't know what that red electricity is in the Upside Down. I mean, come on. They dressed him up like a vampire. I tried to go through the Dungeons and Dragons creature little booklet of there's 2,000 something of them. But like, you remember that part where Bob tells Will to face the thing he's afraid of, and then Will goes to face the Mind Flayer, and then the Mind Flayer possesses him or whatever. But it was also interesting that Will, or the Mind Flayer, recognized Mike, but didn't recognize Hopper, recognize Mom, because it was accessing Will's memories. Maybe it's just because I've only watched the show twice, but did we ever really get an answer as to why the Mind Flayer was tunneling under Hawkins? Like, why was the Mind Flayer spying on everybody? Obviously because it wanted to take over, right? Or because it was looking for something. It's just Will's reaction in that moment to Bob is just so out of proportion to any reaction Will has to like anybody else ever, whether he's possessed, conscious, under the influence, or whatever. I mean, not for nothing, the Demogorgons were called after he realized Bob was there, and then the whole thing happened, and I mean, they didn't really keep going after Joyce or the rest of them after Bob got. Not gonna lie, I did look away when he was getting torn apart. I mean, that was a gnarly, drawn out, long death. Stranger things have happened, though. And if we can theorize Eddie coming back from the dead, then why not Bob too? too. But thanks for watching and follow me for more Stranger Things theories as we get closer. Love you guys. Bye.
Okay, I have a lot to say, not much time to say it in. Let's get to it. First things first, I know that Will has powers now, and that's perfect, because I knew it was going to happen, just not in this form and fashion. But it's going to work. The reason why I think it's going to work is because of what I think they're planning to do in Volume 2 and Volume 3. So to start off with the very first theory, I think the Dimension X and the Upside Down are one and the same. I think they are the same dimension. However, the Upside Down is just a section of Dimension X created with 11 sent Vecna through a portal into Dimension X. Number 2, I think that Volume 2 is going to heavily adapt the events that are shown to us in the first Shadow. It's going to adapt Henry's backstory. Not only that, but I think in Volume 2, what's behind the wall is going to be revealed, and I think it's going to be Dimension X, and inside Dimension X is the Mind Flayer. I also think in Volume 2 it's going to be openly established and confirmed to us, if not verbatim, that the Mind Flayer is the big bad and that he is the one in control, and that Vecna is a member of the Flayed. And for my last Volume 2 theory, y'all remember that scene where Will was talking about you need to run, all of that? While Vecna is vulnerable and trapped in his worst memory, I think that the main party is going to use Will's power to connect and control the hive mind to make a beeline for the Mind Flayer. However, that plan is going to go sour really quickly because the Mind Flayer was waiting on Will to do that. This is the same villain that quite literally learned from its mistakes in every single instance and loss it's ever had. Season 2 to 3, it learned that the singular spy plan and playing it from the shadows is not going to work. It has to get in the field and get active. That's why it created the army of possessed and flayed humans, so that way it can manifest into a giant meat monster. Then it lost in Season 3, and from Season 3 to 4, it learned that, okay, maybe I don't have to fight this battle directly, so I'll send my top general, Vecna. And I think here the Mind Flayer is learning not to let itself be the pursuer, but instead let its prey come to him. That is what I think is happening to Will when the you need to run scene pops off. I think he is actively being controlled and possessed by the Mind Flayer. And now this is where my Volume 3 theories come in. This is probably going to be the most shot in the dark, so just stay with me. I think that we're going to get a Henry Creel face turn. Long story short, I think that Vecna is going to have a redemption arc. Henry Creel is going to return, and in the midst of that, he's going to team up with 11 and Kali to form the final attack. Remember, this entire series stemmed off of one game, a fantasy game, Dungeons and Dragons. D&D features a 20-sided die. 20 sides being landed on represents a max critical hit. And this is just a shot in the dark. I think that 11, Kali, and 1 are going to team up together to form the max ultimate critical attack. 11, 8, 1. 11 plus 8 is 19. What is 1? 20. There you go. Like I said, I don't even know if I came up with this. I think I heard this somewhere, but it just started clicking immediately. And now I'm starting to get it. I think in his worst memory, Max is going to see that, again, Henry is possessed. He's possessed by the Mind Flayer. And this is not really him. And Holly's purpose is to kind of break through and bring that humanity back to Henry Creel so that way we can see him return. And there's always been this talk about a traitor being present in Season 5. In my opinion, I think that traitor is Will. I think something is going to happen in Volume 2 that's going to want to make Will give into the Mind Flayer fully, and he's going to want to back away from that decision once he's seen it's gone too far. Because remember, this is not Will's first time being possessed by the Mind Flayer, and when he describes being possessed by the Mind Flayer, he describes it as being in the back seat of his own car, essentially seeing and feeling everything it's doing, but at the same time he can't stop it. And all of this, in my opinion, is going to lead back into the painting that Will makes in Season 4. You might be sitting there saying, that makes zero sense. How is that the case when Will is actively in the painting as a human? To me, I think it's because it represents Will literally taking back the reins from the Mind Flayer and essentially leaving himself open and vulnerable to being attacked so that way the Mind Flayer can be destroyed. Like I said, shot in the dark. I do think that Henry is going to get injured very badly in the last battle, and he's going to contribute to the final attack that kills the Mind Flayer. But in the midst of that, I think he'll die as well. So yeah, that's everything I have to say about Volume 2 and Volume 3 and my predictions for Stranger Things. I am praying that I get at least half of this correct, because based on how everything is set up, I think I'm like 90% sure I got everything